What is the most disgusting thing that you have ever seen in public? In the corner of the outdoor patio of a bar. A guy was vomiting while smoking a cigarette and taking puffs in between heaves. After he finished, he took a piss on it and went back to the bar for another drink. Was at a Walmart with my dad, and my father is someone who makes it a point to always wipe the carts down before he uses them. This particular day, we had to go to the customer service section, and in front of us was a family of about 4. What I assume was the father had this huge build up to a sneeze and blew out everything in his nose into the palm of his hands. He looked at it for like 2 seconds and then proceeded to wipe it off on the handlebar thing of the shopping cart. Most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. I will never miss a day of wiping off my shopping cart before I use it. Walking past the McDonald's in Charing Cross late one night. A drunk man pulls his trousers down and has extravagant diarrhea against the window, and the guy sitting in the window seat vomits at the sight. Saw a lady walking and turds start to roll out her shorts. Didn't break stride, just kept walking. I was at a festival once in the 90s and was waiting outside the portaloos for my wife when I heard a scream from inside one of the toilets. The door was flung open and a guy had broke through the flooring and was up to his shins in feces. They had been cut to bits as he fell though. The poor lad was hysterical as the paramedics cleaned his wounds with long forceps so they didn't get too close. Even writing this down, it sounds so unlikely as I have no idea how on earth he managed to break the floor, but my wife confirms it's not a fever dream. I've always been extra careful using those loos ever since. I was at a public beach with my family one summer. We live in West Michigan where every town has a nice beach. I love the beach, the water, everything. But one of my favorite things to do is dig my toes into the cool, moist sand. This time, I did exactly that, and then I realized that the sand didn't feel quite right. It wasn't cool enough, and it was very, very squishy and something tickled. I looked down and to my horror, I saw that I did not stick my toes into sand. Instead, I was ankle deep in the slimy entrails of a warm, rotting fish carcass. The tickling sensation came from maggots crawling up my leg. I jumped right into the lake, and then went promptly to the car. I can still feel that phantom squishy sensation if I think hard enough. It traumatized me. I used to work at McDonald's, and while I was taking money from a man, the woman in the passenger seat was giving him a handjob and staring directly at me. I was 17 at the time. I've seen plenty of disgusting bodily, and other, fluids, but that one scarred me for life. A charred human, not yet a corpse. In the stairwell of the parking garage at work, some junkie/meth head took a massive poo. It was just one giant log the size of a toddler leg. I know opioids and meth can cause constipation and such, so it checks out. The worst part was the napkin stuck to the log, which had a handprint in it. It was clear from this evidence that the junkie/tweaker was pushing a grumper and got stuck halfway through, and they had to grab it and pull it out. Bus driver coughing up the contents of his lungs and expelling them all over the bus floor because there was just so much gunk. He got taken away by ambulance. I once saw an old lady fall under the tram with her intestines stretched from one station to the next. In Bucharest, Romania, I was walking through one of the parks and suddenly became overwhelmed by a horrendous stench of rotten flesh. I couldn't escape it, nor did I know where it was coming from. I walked a little faster to get away, but it was then that I seen a guy sitting down. His leg was covered in maggots and what looked like a puddle of pus on the ground. The shocking part was that there were other people just sitting around the area talking and eating like he wasn't even there. I once was on my way home from work pulling into my street and I see a woman walking down the street with stuff all down her leg. I thought it was blood, so I pulled up next to her to ask if she was okay. Realized it was diarrhea. She looked super upset, said she had been really sick recently and went for a walk around the block for some fresh air and couldn't hold it. She asked if I could block her with my truck a couple houses and I said absolutely. She said she's okay and thanked me. I said no problem and to feel better and get some rest. I've seen her every once in a while since she lives on my street. I will never bring that up to her. Motorcycle crash. Guy's leg was pretty much ground off as it was stuck under the bike whilst sliding down the road. Passenger got catapulted. She landed face first, wearing a beanie helmet, and slid, face down about 60 yards down the road. She will be permanently disfigured for the rest of her life, facial reconstruction will be necessary, and all of the skin on her chest was gone. Rib cage and sternum in full view. Don't know if they lived or not after being airlifted to the hospital. I saw a guy sitting at a bus stop. He was trying to eat a cup of noodles, but kept vomiting into cup and continuing to try to eat it anyway. A woman changed a baby's diaper on a table at a restaurant before leaving, didn't even close it. Just left. I was in a Walmart and I walked past an aisle that was empty except for one guy. Saw and heard him fart into his hand and cup it over his nose and mouth. Degloving of a kid's arm about 20 years ago. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Absolutely horrible. Two obvious drug addicts, clearly in love outside a Subway sandwich shop. The man, lost in another dimension, grabs the back of his lover's head and slowly pushes 3 fingers down her throat. Not able to fight, presumably lost in a dimension different from his, she lets it happen without resistance. She proceeds to slowly vomit brown and black waste, rife with unknowable chunks, all over herself and his hand. It flows like molten lava down her loose black shirt. In that moment, I regret my existence and yet can't turn away. The sandwich tasted fine. The aftermath of a train hitting a homeless man. It was terrible. A girl shooting up drugs in her vag at 8 a.m. in an alley behind a kid's karate studio. Skirt up, no underwear, all nasty. This one time I saw a woman crying against a shop window one Friday night. She was alone and I mostly hang out with ladies, so I said we should check on her to see if she was alright. I point out the ladies because a dude walking up to a crying woman alone just screams predator. This might sound mean, but she looked normal, didn't look like she'd just lost a bag of crack for instance, more like she was out and got a text about a relative being dead. So as we approach her I hear the familiar sound of footsteps coming from my right. Heavy, pounding and coming fast. I throw my hands up to protect myself as I look to my right and see a dude cross my line of sight, jump, push both feet out and hit this chick with both barrels, knocking her into the window, shattering it and knocking himself out in the process. Turns out he saw a crying woman, assumed it was the girl he just found out was cheating on him and went in for revenge. She was not that girl. She didn't go through the glass, more like made a lady-shaped dent in it, like a spider web. She was mostly shook up but largely unharmed. The guy on the other hand landed on his arm, split the bone and it broke out of his skin. He also dislocated his shoulder and messed his head up something fierce. Karmic justice if there ever was. Then the girls I was with snapped like you can't believe and just started hammering this dude in the junk with their heels. That's what did it for me. Blood? Bones? Easy. Getting your meat and vegetables turned into bubble and squeak when you're unconscious? Nope. The crying girl had just been fired. That's why she was crying. She'd never seen that guy in her life. She's got one hell of a story now though. I still think about her sometimes. Was in a supermarket on a proper hot day, a lady is with her kid who tells her he needs to pee. She pulls out a potty and the kid takes a poo in front of the fresh veg. Like, I get that kids need to use the toilet, but in the middle of a supermarket aisle is a bit grim.